Okay, look happy, healthy.
Jordan quickly reviews 4 games with other people.
Hi everyone, I'm Jordan. This is Jordan Plays Blue, and today we are going to talk about games from AEG, or Alderac Entertainment Group. AEG is a publisher that's been around, I feel like, a long time, but they feel like they've really been hitting their stride the last couple years. So I'm excited to talk about a bunch of their games. Last year, they released like 5 games that were in my top 20. I felt like a ton of games, and I don't actually think we're talking about any of those games. So I'm gonna name drop them right now. So Santa Monica was super good. Calico is one of my favorite games that came out last year. It was my favorite game that came out last year, maybe one of my favorite games of all time. Super good. Truffle Shuffle was also really good. Mariposas came out last year. That was them. And maybe Ecos was the year before, but so good. And they had a Tiny Towns expansion. It was like lights out. Like AEG is just knocking it out of the park. So we're going to review some games from them, and it's going to be fun. This is Jordan Quickly Reviews 4 games with other people, and here we have my other people. To that side is, whichever side I'm pointing at, is Jenn, the board game librarian.
Hey folks, glad to be here tonight and to talk about some games and people.
Excellent. And then my diagonal, we have the lovely guys from Kavre.
Yes, hello. Hello, we're Ilya and Tylor. Very excited about AEG games. Yeah.
Excellent. And then to my below is...
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm from the Meeple Overboard podcast, and I work also at the Dice Tower.
Yes, you guys might remember Chris from last month, or you might know Chris because he's in more places than I am. So, but Chris last month valiantly filled in for a late cancellation I had, but he was already booked for this month. He didn't do anything last month that necessarily led him deserving this spot. However, we'll see if he can redeem himself and come out on top. And we're going to have him start. We good with that?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, let's go.
All right. So like you said, Jordan, AEG is one of those publishers I really, really like. And I've liked them for a long time. And so I picked an older game of theirs. And the game that I picked is one called Istanbul. And so instead of grabbing the box cover, I grabbed this whole girl here. And I wrote a little song about Istanbul. I'm going to pop up my headphones really quick while I sing, because it'll make it easier. So if you're yelling at me that I'm out of tune, I can't hear you. Nice little trick that I learned years ago.
Excellent.
Istanbul is full of pick up and deliver. Race to 5 rubies, and who can do it quicker? Your wheelbarrow, it starts off narrow, but soon will be filled with goods. Trade in those goods for rubies or for powers. Moving across that grid is never dour. 1 or 2 spaces in either cases. Take the action where you land. When you move a stack of wooden discs, yeah, leave one behind. I hope that you don't miss it. That's right, you leave it. Soon you're depleted. So what else can you do? If you return to a space you've been before, retrieve the disc that you left there on the floor. Your stack's now taller. You can go farther on your race to 5 gems.
That was wonderful, Chris.
That's awesome.
Just threw that together, didn't you?
So anyway, that's my overview of Istanbul. It's yeah, you move around, and that stack of tokens is my favorite part. But it also has a couple of things where you can take some risks and roll some dice and try and get lots of money and buy your gems or trading those goods for gems directly. But no matter what you do, as you're succeeding, getting closer to the end, you're making everything more expensive for other players. And it's one of those games that I think plays incredibly well, whether from 2 to 5 players. There's a few little variants that make the two a bit more tighter or interactive, even. And so, yeah, no, I don't want to take up too much time, but Istanbul is a classic, and I think it deserves to be regarded as such. I'm trying to remember. Is anyone else here have they played it? You guys gotten to try that?
So I love Istanbul. Istanbul was one of our first AEG games, and I've only ever played it at 2 players. And you're not supposed to do Grand Bazaar, the whole kit and caboodle with all the expansions at 2 players. I think it's really meant for 5, but we get super competitive, and we're totally watching like how many rubies the other player has, and we're like, I'm making it more expensive for you. Have you played the dice game, Chris?
I have, and I quite like it. I think it's one of those you expect it to be been a roll and write game or something like that, but it's not. It's a really weird game where you roll the dice once, and you're like, well, where's the? Oh, do I re-roll up to 3 times? No. Do I roll and save one each time? No. Roll and deal with it. But then there's like other really clever ways where you can kind of mitigate for rolls. That whole family, the whole series is really good. I'm tempted to pick up the big box because Istanbul is the only game that has a big box that's actually the reasonably sized box. So, yeah. Jordan, have you gotten to try Istanbul before?
I have. When I did a top 10 games of all time 2 years ago, Istanbul was in my top 10. It was probably around like 9 or 10. I really enjoyed it. I love the because it's not a true worker placement game, but you're moving your workers around. It doesn't there isn't necessarily that limiting of the space, but you are limited in how you can move to the worker placement space, for lack of a better term, those actions in the grid board. And I played a lot on the app. I played a lot on the app. It's probably one of my most played app games, because it can just you can get in and out pretty quickly. But it almost, if it weren't tiles, I feel like if the so all the places that you can move to are on these tiles and you build out a grid with them. And I feel like if they weren't tiles, the game would almost feel chess-like, because you would almost be able to script out where the best moves would be, and how many spaces away from the starting space and things like that. But being able to shift them around, I mean, I have my strategies I like to use to start the game, but once you randomly put out the grid, you're like, can I even get to the space to get all the red, to get the fabric? Can I get to the space to get the spices? Can I get to the space to be able to do this? I always, try to get the money and build out my wagon first, and then maximize those, resource collection spaces as best I can. There's different ways to play it, but I think a lot of times that mixing up the grid is really what leaves the game a little open, or else I feel like it could get kind of chess-like, where you're like scripting out what your first couple turns should be, like Puerto Rico. Like if you're playing with people that know how to play Puerto Rico, there's certain actions you got to do first, and you're going to mess up people if you don't. And I feel like Istanbul could be that way, but I love Istanbul. I think it's super cool, really interesting, and I don't know, it's one that I keep coming back to. It just kind of grabbed me. All right, let's turn it over to Jenn with Edge of Darkness.
So Edge of Darkness, card crafting game. He's the master at this, where you are doing lots of things. You are attempting to fight monsters. You are building your cards, getting points. You can go to the library. So of course I have to pick a game that has a library, folks, right? And you're doing just all different kinds of things. You're sending your agents out. You're trying to get as many agents as possible. But the variety that comes within the box, you're not going to have the same game twice. You're not going to have the same locations out all the time. Like there's a prescribed starting amount that you can have, but each time it's very different. So as you're going along in each turn, taking cards in and filling up your own personal cards, you are doing several things. You are beefing up your card that at some point can be flipped over and all the monsters are on the other side. So like in Mystic Vale, where there's 3 spots for cards, this also has 3 spots, but you can have Big Baddie 1, Big Baddie 2, and Big Baddie 3, all, and then you have to fight them later. And the really super unique thing about Edge of Darkness is no one has you don't keep your deck. You are crafting your deck, but your deck goes into a communal one and then it's shuffled. And, Jordan could get one of my cards. Tylor could get one of my cards. Chris could get another one. So it's like this really weird balance of wanting to have an awesome card for yourself, but not so awesome that someone else is going to benefit off of it. And it really so
Yeah,
clever.
that's almost like a riff on a I split you choose type thing where
Yeah.
you're going to make the card, but somebody else might have the choice to use it. So you don't want it to be too powerful, or else somebody else is just going to lay it on you, right?
Yeah, but at the end you get points for each slot in your own deck that you filled in. So it's like you want to get the points at the end because points can be really tight and narrow. But again, there's that flipping it over. It's really bad monsters. And sometimes you'll never even see that card too. Like you'll make it really great for yourself and then it'll be with Jordan every single time.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing too is that if Jordan uses my card, he has to pay me to use it. So money coming in. I don't know if they're planning on having this in the same universe as Mystic Vale. It'd be kind of cool if they did. Mystic Vale itself is like a big beast, 3 or 4 expansions. And then I'm going to forget the name of the pirate one that came out.
Dead Reckoning.
Also, it's going to be another big beast of a game.
Yeah.
But if you like John D. Clare, I mean, I feel like he is so tight as a designer that you're not going to be disappointed by anything that he puts out. So that's my Edge of Darkness. I can put it on my head.
That is a deep box.
Yeah, that's a big box.
So after you pointed out the price, I looked it up in the BGG, the Board Game Geek marketplace has a copy for $95. So if anybody wants a deal, that is the cheapest on there. Everything else is over 100. So
yeah,
click on it fast.
Jen, could you send all the baddies to somebody else and they have to fight them? Is that how that works or no?
Oh, I forgot to talk about the other cool part. I'm so glad you brought that up. So there's a cube tower in this as well too. And I love cube towers now. So when you're at the beginning of your turn, when you pick out your cards, there's a threat level on all of them and you have to pull from a bag how many cubes you have on your cards. And they all kind of go in through the cube tower, and then there's 3 slots that the cubes can fall in. So if I'm purple and Chris is the blue player, and when the cubes fall down, it's a majority kind of thing. So if I have 4 and he has 5, the monsters are fighting Chris, even though it's my turn.
Oh.
So it's a little bit of a randomizer, but the players have some level of input on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that happens again when you're crafting your cards because you know what threat is on each one when you go to purchase it. But it's got so much going on, and I'm so glad you brought it up because the cube tower is like one of the neatest things.
Yeah,
I really like the card crafting mechanic. I think it's so interesting, and John D. Clare definitely was one of the first to really bring it to light in a lot of his deeper games. Because even now, some of the lighter games like Canvas, it's so cool to kind of see those cards put together. And I'm really excited to see more games try that. And try to incorporate that in new and unique ways.
Yeah, there's one. I can't remember if John D. Clare made it or not. Oh, what was it called? Custom Heroes or
Yeah, that was him.
Custom Heroes, and it's a ladder climbing game, kind of like teach you not a straight trick taking game, but kind of a riff off of that. But you upgrade your cards as the game goes on, and so some cards will have multiple numbers on them, or they'll rate like the number on the cards will increase. So it's like a deck of cards, only the cards are changing as the game goes on. And so as you're playing these rounds of cards, you might get that one, but you are passing the cards around also. So you're not kind of like Edge of Darkness. You're going to make these cards, but they're not for you. They're then going to be shuffled and dealt out to people. So I don't know. It's a cool take on it also, and it totally like it uses that core kind of gimmicky mechanic, but it in a totally different type of game, which is really cool.
So I'm really excited to hear what Tylor and Ilya have to say about Spacebase, another one of my favorites.
So before we get started, we are doing Spacebase, but we absolutely adore AEG games, mainly because of how accessible they are and how many people they bring into the hobby. I can't even explain how many people we've first introduced, like using tiny towns, or now like the awesome partnership between Flat Out and Alderac with their like point salad, truffle shuffle, calico.
Yeah, Cascadia.
Cascadia coming up soon too. That's going to be super exciting. But today we want to talk about another John D. Clare game, Spacebase. Do you want to give a quick overview?
Basically, Spacebase is a dice rolling engine builder where you're trying to score the 40 points the fastest, I believe it is. And yeah, you just like gain gold through all of your dice rolling. And the neat thing that I like about Spacebase is it's not just like I roll dice, you get points, or I get points. It's like I roll dice and things can happen all around the board. And then you get to buy more ships to make it an even bigger engine.
Yeah, it's really neat because throughout the game, as you buy ships, you deploy them. But the ones that you deploy, you're able to use abilities on other people's rolls. So you have a grid from 1 to 12 or from 2 to 12. And you roll 2 dice, and based on where that number ends up, you can activate those various ships. So it's always, I really like the reason I love this game so much is for exactly the reason that you said was you're really paying attention to everybody's turn, because the moment someone rolls that unlikely 11 or 12 and you have like a whole stack of cards, it's just like,
Feels good.
I know I built a whole strategy around the 10 ones where I had, I think, like up to 8 cards deployed. And then Tylor had a whole thing on 7s. And I swear I got 10s like 4 times in a row and just like won so smoothly. And it felt so nice.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you gotta oppose statistics and go for something bold.
Yeah, I have a math background too, so it's like, oh, I just have to go for 7s. Like it makes the most sense. I'll get a lot of points eventually. I just gotta be confident in the stats. But no, not at all.
See, my math background just tells me to be radical and just go for it.
There you go.
But yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think of Spacebase.
I'll jump in. So I was one of the people who played Spacebase for the first time way late. Everyone talked about how amazing this game, how fantastic it is. And so Wendy, my wife, my co-host, and I sat down and we played a game of it. And I kept being annoyed by little things here and there. And I was like, oh, deal it up again. Let's play again. And it's one of those that like, I just keep wanting to get better at, but I have fun with it every time. And so, when something happens, like, how does someone keep rolling 10s? How does someone keep doing this amazing thing? It's more fun, kind of a of a oh no, rather than like an actually frustrating experience. And I think it's a fantastic design. It's comparable to say like Machikoro, which I've never been a big fan of it, but this one addresses some of those things by letting you just kind of build up a more interesting engine, benefiting more on other players' turns, and just having more fun machinations going on. So I think it's great. I think it's probably the best of this genre.
Chris, did you learn it from the rule book?
Yes.
Did you have were there any troubles like with some of the extra powers or like the charges or things like that?
Absolutely. Yes.
That's really, it is a game that is, I think, easier to be taught from somebody who knows how to play than from the rules. I think the rules can be a little vague and hard to find what you need in them,
I 100% agree.
unfortunately.
You know, like the
Yeah.
first few times that we played, we kept like those green powers where you could like shift some dice over and move some stuff. We said, what? Yeah, can you do it? Does it bounce infinite loops? What is happening?
Right.
Same thing. Yeah.
So my husband and I were taught it by a good friend of ours, Larry, and he taught it to us wrong.
Oh,
Like really, really wrong. So we loved it anyway, and we purchased it. And then I went to play it at a game store with someone else, and we started to play, and he's looking at me like, how was that? So he retaught us, but I'd agree. Some of the I always feel like I go for the cards that are really self-explanatory. I'm not far. Ooh, I'm not. You can edit that out, Jordan. I'm not to be cheap. I'm not gonna go flipping through the pages, going, "What is this going?" Like, to me, that breaks the pace of the game because the game is so snappy. Just take the time and look at that. I'm lazy. I guess I'm lazy.
So, humble brag moment, really quick. I know that I play this correctly now because I got to, at a convention at Dice Tower West, I got to sit down with John D. Clare, and he ran us through the prototype of the second expansion for it, and we were talking about it, and I don't remember if it's actually out yet. I don't think it's out yet, right? But we got to play with them. And you could tell which cards were the prototype cards because, like, you know, crayon and drawn in a card sleeve or whatever. But I was asking, like, was the first expansion the one that you had to do for like marketability, and the second one is just, are these just the ridiculous cards that you just want to play with? He goes, yep, that's what it is. So like, oh, this card here in the 12 slot activates every card before it, like 1 through 11, or just huge things like that. He's like, let's just see if it works.
oh, it's not out
Love
yet. You can't tease us like that.
I love it.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll chime in now. I joked before the video about this, but Spacebase, if I were to rank my favorite games, Spacebase is my favorite game of all time. It is. I absolutely adore the game. I teach it to people. I try to make sure they don't have to look through the rule book. I've never had it go poorly. I think one of the things that is really accessible about it is it has the same roll for resources, like, or roll to trigger, as Catan, Settlers does. And so a lot of people can kind of connect on that, which I think is really cool. But it also has the really cool engine building. You're collecting all these cards. Some of the cards, as you're getting to know it, chain super cool, where, Jen, if you're not just taking those simple cards, you got cards that can swap slots. You got cards that can move a charge over to here. You got a card that can, you know, trigger here to here to here. And it's so good. I did do Shy Pluto. I have been recommending for people to get Shy Pluto, but not worry about the campaign portion of it, because it got me to play the game like 5 times in a row, which was awesome. But yeah, there's not much story there. You know, there's not a whole lot to it. But some of the dice and some of the cards in it are really cool. It adds, I don't want to spoil anything, but it adds these dice that you roll, like, you own them and you roll them every single turn, including on other players' turns. But the dice only have a symbol on one face of them. So you're going to get, like, you might have like 5 of these dice and you're rolling them and you're just like getting all zeros every single time. And then once you'll get like a coin and you're like, yes, move up the coin track. But it's just fun to roll that many dice. Like, that's, you know, it's just a fun thing that isn't necessarily going to benefit you a ton, but it's just a fun little wrinkle in there. And then they have the big command station box. Speaking of big boxes, again, it makes it into a normal size, like, Ticket to Ride box. It's not like huge. Spacebase is like a weirdly small box. Yeah, it's like a box size all on its own, right there. That is actually an empty box because my other one is upstairs with the games that I play all the time. And so everything's in the command center box, but the command station, but the command station also has additional cards that you can use in it. So at this point, everything's just mixed in. I don't know what is what anymore, but there's cards that like trigger diagonally now. So like you can trigger like those docked ships on your own turn, or you can trigger your regular ships on other people's turns. It's so cool. I have successfully done a you win card, which I feel like solidified it being my favorite game. Like it was like really up there, and then I did it, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done.
Wow, I've
And
never seen that done.
last month, I was one cube away from doing it a second time. Like it's so good. I love it. And then I lost it. I only scored like 4 points that game, and my buddies were joking around with me that I scored no points, but I was still like saying I was going to win the whole time. And then the second game, I was like, that card didn't even come up, and I was just like, fine, I'll play straight, and I mopped the floor with them. It wasn't even close.
So Jordan,
watch out.
tell me more about this industry secret I didn't realize, that all of those boxes on the shelf behind you are just empty.
Yes. So when you
Weird.
get as big as me and Jordan Plays Blue, sometimes companies will send discarded empty boxes. Sometimes you get little lucky cats. Sometimes you get, Pokemon or Jesuses. And I just got to display it all because they're paying me to do it. That's what it comes down to. So if you would like to sponsor a future video, send me an empty box with a check inside, and I'll respond with an email.
That's when you know you've made it, Ilya and Tylor. Just so you're aware.
That's it.
I haven't made it yet.
All 200 of my subscribers know what's up. Thank you, guys. You mean the world. You mean the world.
Spacebase is
to
a
me.
great pick.
I love it. No, when somebody said they were talking about Spacebase, I was like, great, I don't have to. So cool.
Well, Jordan, why don't you tell us about your game?
I'm last, and it's upstairs in my games I like to play pile. So no knocks against some of these games. Honestly, I haven't even played some of these games. They're just somewhere I need to put games.
Boy, you can't play an empty box.
It's true. It's true. So my game I wanted to talk about is Cubitos. Cubitos. There it is. Thank you. So it's the game with the fake SpongeBob on the cover. And so this is a pool building dice game with a race. And so the theme is all of the cube people in the cube world are getting together for a race, and you are going to be part of the race. That's the theme, and that's what they came up with, and that's why we play board games. That's why we're here, for the cube races. And so everybody controls a cube shaped animal, and I'm usually the blue elephant. And you have a board that has it's kind of a off grid, but it's like half off. So
Offset squares.
Offset grid. That's what I was looking for. And so you're going to have these dice in front of you, but the dice, like those space-based dice I was talking about before, same designer, incidentally, the dice are super inefficient. These are like the least efficient dice ever. Some of them only have one face on them. Some of them have two faces on them. I think the best die in the game has 3 faces on it.
Yes.
I think the cat has 3. I think that might be the best one. Best is relative, I suppose. But so you're rolling these dice, and it is a bit of a push your luck. I've seen a lot of people compare it online to Quacks of Quedlinburg, which is another excellent game, but I honestly don't see a whole lot of it. It just has a push your luck element to it, just like Quacks does, but I don't think they're too similar. But you're going to roll these dice. Everything that has a face on it, you set aside. Everything that is blank, you could re-roll if you wanted to. But if you have a roll that are all blank faces, you bust, and you don't get to move that round. And so there's some consolation prizes. You don't just like lose a turn, but you're then the dice faces are either going to give you movements, kind of Dominion style, movements or buys or special actions. And then you can spend your coins on additional dice to add to your pool. You can use your feet to move along the board wherever you land on the board. Sometimes you get some additional stuff. and you're essentially trying to win the race. First person across the finish line wins. Like when it says a race game, it is a straight race game. Spacebase, incidentally, is a race game because you're trying to get to 40 points. Istanbul is a race game because you're trying to get to that number of points. Cubitos is a race game because you're trying to cross the finish line before everybody else. But a lot of the game is played simultaneously. You're rolling the dice, you're doing that, and then you just move in turn order, but almost everything else is done simultaneously. And then a couple other really cool things that make the game really interesting is that you have there's 8 or 10 different colors of dice in it, and each one is assigned a kind of card. So let's say on the front of the box, we got that cheese, the lederhosen cheese guy. He is all of the yellow dice in the game. So he will always be the yellow dice, but there's like 8-10 different cards that are associated with that give the sides of those dice different actions and different powers. And so one game, that card could cost 5 coins and allows you to move 3 extra feet and then trade in a die for something else and then do this. Or the next game, it could be worth 8 coins to buy, and then it does this and this and this instead. And then, so each one is going to be totally different. Each game, there's different like race setups that you can have. The game comes with 4 different racetracks. It comes with these 8 to 10 different dice, and then each one of those has 8 to 10 different cards that go with it. You can mix and match all of them. You can play preset races. You could play a circuit with all these different setups. There's a lot to it, but it's a lot of fun. Like you could play, honestly, I think you could play almost like Dominion, where you just are playing the base box and playing the same kind of sets each time, and it probably won't get too boring. But those people that really like the variety of it and like, oh, I want to try this card, oh, I want to try this card. Some of the cards, like Jen said, like you don't want to get like the difficult ones in Spacebase. Some of them, like they feel a little difficult, and I haven't played with some of them because I'm like, I don't know how that would work. Like I don't see the benefit of that card, so I'm just going to not ever use it. And so I just don't buy those cards. I just don't use that card, or I don't use those dice. Yeah, but that's Cubitos. It just came out last month, maybe. But I've seen a lot of people talking about it. I think because the art direction is so weird. It's like a game that you see and everybody's like, what is that game? It's not, it doesn't have like a dour, white guy with a floppy hat on the cover. It doesn't have like a cityscape. It's not like the French countryside. It doesn't have Cthulhu coming out. It's like a cheese man with like the leg hair just kind of strutting it,
He
has, yeah, there's leg hair.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, as somebody with leg hair, I definitely noticed. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, if you wanted to see a picture of me in lederhosen,
I do.
it's not far off, honestly. Yeah. So Tylor and Ilya, I know you guys have played Cubitos. What do you guys think?
I really like it. It's like Mario Kart put into a board game, in my opinion, with obviously like more randomness. But yeah, it's been a blast to play. I also like the fan track, like you were saying, is if you end up busting, like the fan track is a way. It's almost like a catch-up mechanism, and it's almost worth it to bust every now and then as well. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoy this game.
Yeah, I really, really like the design. I think it's really elegant because there are so many little details on those catch-up mechanisms. So if you're too far behind, you can roll more dice. If you bust, you can do this kind of pieces. So there's so many of those small little pieces. Because even like I remember our first game that we played, like one of us was way, way behind, and that person ended up winning just because of all those benefits that you get in the dice that you roll. I think the other feature I really like about the game as well is in the rule book. And I've been seeing this more and more often is they add a little kind of like campaign or like modules, but it's like the Grand Prix. So there's like a list of races you can do in an order and kind of create that whole experience that, hey, you've lost the first one, but then try out this set of cards and do that. Because Jordan, like you said, some of those cards I looked at and I said, no, I don't know. So it's nice.
Yeah, I did the first
use them together.
I did the first couple like preset ones, and then I was playing with some friends, and I was like, I'm gonna try to make my own set of just like the cards I would want to play with, and it worked pretty well. But as I was going through them, I was like, some of these cards I just don't know how they would work, And I'm sure they made it into final. I'm sure John has plenty of other cards that didn't make it into the game. So like these were like the ones that worked the best. I just don't get it.
I think the last time we played, I only bought the cheese cubes, and I just moved so fast. It was amazing.
Yeah, I like the white dice, the smelly cat dice. Those
Yeah.
those are the ones I seem to go for every game. The cheese ones are also good. And I like the blue ones too, because there's some of them let you move through water, which is kind of
Oh,
fun.
the llama.
Yeah, the llama
Yeah.
ones.
The purple dinosaur is probably my favorite because it's so low
So
chance of
risky.
rolling it, but when you do, it feels so good.
That you're playing the 12s, like that's
That's me.
oh man, we got you pegged.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think what's great about it is that it is the best. I think this is the best version of like a dice pool building game that I've played, and I've played a few of them because Dominion is one of my favorite games, probably my favorite board game. And so when people say, "Oh, this thing is the dicey version of Dominion," or whatever, and a lot of them don't work for me. This one does it so interesting, where you get to choose out of your available pool of dice which ones you're going to roll into the same hand, which is brilliant because it allows you some agency before you go ahead and roll the dice. And so you can make, if you buy certain dice saying, "I want these to combo together," you can make that happen. But now it's up to the dice whether they will be nice enough to let you make those combos. And I think that's a fun hook. I think that's a good catch.
And I think it gives you that little bit of agency on your turn. And frankly, I don't know if it is, randomly pull the card from the dice from the bag. I don't know if it really truly is agency, because then you're rolling the dice, but it feels like you are making some more decisions. And I think that hooks you in, even just like that feeling that, yeah, this is working for me.
Tricked agency.
Yes, it's a bit of a phantom choices.
But hey, if my brain is dumb enough to think that I'm having fun, I'm having fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all you need.
What Well, Jenn, with that, how can people find you after they finish watching this video? Of course, they'll wait till the end, and then what should they do then?
Yes, they can find Jordan and I on Board Game Breakfast. If not this week, then next week, right?
That's right.
Chris, you have some power in that now,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
I'm an every week kind of girl, all right? So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Board Game Librarian, and our fledgling little YouTube channel, The Literary Gamers, where we haven't talked as much about books, but we do board games. My husband's going, I have. And there's some booze involved too. So if you like adult beverages, come on over.
Go for it. All right, Kavre.
Take it away.
So we're Ilya and Tylor. We're Kavre Studios or Kavre on pretty much all social media. We do also have a small YouTube channel where we do a Check It Out series where we showcase various games every week. And then every week we try to also put another video out where we try something different. This is going to be in the future, but this week we put out a music video where we talked about our game, they're not having enough time to play games. So we're always looking to try new things. So feel free to join our journey, and thank you for having us today, Jordan.
Yeah, I enjoyed the music video. I thought that was really, really fun.
Thank you.
Have you been doing, I'm going to age myself. Have you been doing TikToks? Is that something I've been seeing? And
Yeah, we have been doing
have been.
TikToks. It's actually been really fun to try to dive in. There's a really vibrant board game community on
There
TikTok.
is. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, and Chris.
my name is Chris. I co-host the Meeple Overboard podcast, so you can find that. And I am also a video editor and producer at the Dice Tower. So I pop up there on occasion, and then when you are watching Board Game Breakfast, you see whichever direction these fine folks, Jordan and Jenn, are, then I'm also usually moderating the chat and making goofy jokes and stuff that the Dice Tower staff later go look through the comments and say, he said that about us. So yeah, come hang out.
Great. And you just did a full review last week, right?
Yeah. So Wendy and I we just went up yesterday, was Kanban EV. So I'm trying to cover a couple of the games that honestly Tom just doesn't want to touch. So a couple of those, like, the dry sand, bone dry Euro games, and then just, whatever else he looks and goes, you take this. So, yep.
Right.
So you'll be able to see our faces around.
That's great. Yeah, I'm really glad that you're down there with them now. But yeah, thanks everyone. I'm Jordan, and these are my other people. And you don't belong to me, but you've been with me tonight. And again, this is Jordan Plays Blue. Make sure you subscribe if you don't, because that's what you're supposed to say in YouTube videos. I just try to have fun because board games are fun. Bye,
Board
everyone.
games are fun.
Fun.
Bye, everyone.